So many of you know, a few months back, I actually put together a video talking about anxiety, panic attacks, and depression, and how musicians, producers are very prone to these issues, and they can really get in the way of not only your productivity in your career, but actually your entire life, like completely controlling your behaviors, your relationships, how much of a life you really can live. They can completely steal all your joy and happiness in your life. So they are no small matter at all. These are really sort of life-threatening issues that definitely need to be talked about and discussed. Now, I didn't want to dedicate a whole bunch of my videos to that because this is primarily a channel about music licensing, okay? The reason why I'm passionate about it and why I even brought it up in the first place is two reasons. Number one, I've gotten a lot of emails and contacts from many people saying that they're dealing with these kind of issues. And I personally have dealt with depression, anxiety, panic attacks in my life in major ways. So I can relate to it. I know the struggle of it, and I have gotten through them. And they have not become an issue for me in many, many years now. They have not been something that I've actually had to deal with in any serious level. Sure, you have bad days, bad weeks, you get a little anxious, you get stressed. But compared to where I used to be, meaning I used to, I remember going into an ambulance because I had a panic attack so bad that I thought I was going to die. So I had to go to the doctors immediately, having depressions that just completely robbed me of all my creativity and made me just not want to live life. So yeah, I've been there, but it's been a long time since I've dealt with those issues. And something just sort of came across my radar here recently, and it actually was with had to do with Selena Gomez. Actually, she had put together, or she had done an interview, I think, or something, and she had this quote because she has personally dealt with anxiety and depression. Not a surprise; she's a musician. A lot of artists actually do obviously deal with this kind of thing. I do think that there's a lot about artists tend to be fairly sensitive to the world. We are very sensitive people, and you'll find a lot of times that intelligence and sensitivity also go hand in hand with being more prone to anxiety, depression, and other things like that. So it's not very surprising that a lot of artists feel this way. But the quote that she gave, one of the quotes that she gave, I thought was really telling, and I wanted to share my thoughts about it because it does make a big difference how your mind perceives your whatever you're dealing with. Depression, anxiety, panic attacks. Your mind, and I strongly believe in this, is far more powerful probably than you're giving it credit for. I strongly believe that your mind creates your reality. Okay, so if you're dealing with something that seems to be never ending and it's never going away and it just seems to be following you around like a dark cloud throughout your life, there's probably something in your thinking and your perception that's actually causing that. So I'm not saying that you are to blame for your panic attacks or anxiety. Obviously, you're not inviting these things into your life. You don't want those things in your life. So don't get me confused. I'm not saying that it's your fault or that you are asking for any of this. But your mental perceptions of these things and your mental perception of the future and how you're going to deal with these issues moving forward are definitely playing a role on whether or not they're going to be in your rearview mirror or they're going to continue to be in front of you in your path, okay? So let me just read this quote from Selena Gomez, and I'll tell you what was so telling about this quote that she said. She says, "I've had a lot of issues with depression and anxiety, and I've been very vocal about it, but it's not something I feel I'll ever overcome. And I'm okay with that because I know that I'm choosing myself over anything else." So I think that last sentence is a little bit vague, but I think she's just saying, I'm okay knowing that I'll always have a bit of depression and anxiety in my life, but I basically won't commit suicide. I won't, completely bail out of this. I'm going to just fight and get through life. I think that's kind of what that last sentence is saying. But that's not the most interesting part of that quote. I think the most interesting part is when she says, but it's not something I feel I'll ever overcome. I wonder where she got that idea, right? If you're dealing with anxiety and you're dealing with depression, you've probably been dealing with it for a long time, months, maybe years, maybe even decades. And because you haven't seen the out yet, right? You haven't seen a way to get through these issues yet, it's somewhat, I guess, logical to believe that they will just follow you around for the rest of your life, right? So I can totally sympathize where she's coming from because honestly, I used to feel that way. My mindset used to be in that, especially for depression. Anxiety, panic attacks definitely have that as well, but depression especially, when you're in a dark funk, like you don't really see the light at the end of the tunnel. And it's very easy and seemingly logical to believe, well, this is going to be my life. I'll just have to deal with this, just, this weight on my shoulders all the time, not wanting to get out of bed, not wanting to go to work, not wanting to do anything, not enjoying life, not enjoying food, not enjoying the people in my life, like kind of hiding from life. And essentially, I can understand the temptation to just accept that as your fate, and because you don't see that there's anything you can do to change that. So I totally sympathize with that, okay? But I'm telling you that your mindset and your mind is so much more powerful than you're giving it credit, because when Selena says something like that, and she's obviously verbalizing it in front of people here, right? But that is a reflection of her conscious and probably subconscious thought patterns, that she actually has a story loop running in her mind saying, you'll always be depressed, you'll always be anxious. And I don't know if probably she's dealing with panic attacks as well. So you're just always going to deal with these things, right? So that is a loop that's playing in her head. She's just accepted it as part of her identity. And in other words, she's bought it, right? So when this thought came into her head years ago, you're not worth it, you're nothing, you're meaningless, you'll never be successful, whatever that depressive, horrible thought that came into her head, she probably battled with it for a while. But at some point, it sold her on, and I'm never going to leave you. You're always going to be worthless. You're always going to have this struggle. You're always going to have to fight this. Same thing with anxiety and panic attacks. Panic attacks, for sure, when they come, you don't really know when they're going to leave. And sometimes you can just buy it and own it and say, like, okay, I am a person that deals with panic attacks. I'm just a person that has to deal with anxiety. I just have to live with depression my entire life. It's very easy to buy those sort of lies. I do believe that they are lies. They are not the truth, but there is a voice that is trying to sell you on these lies to keep you in those negative states of mind, okay? Now, where do these all come from? That's a different story. There's a lot of people who have different opinions on where depression and panic attacks and anxiety go. I certainly have my own. Maybe I'll talk about those in another video. But I do believe that if you are telling yourself this, you believe this, and then you're obviously vocalizing it and telling other people that, yeah, I'm a person that just has depression and anxiety and I'll just always have it, you are going to be setting your path forward in life to always be dealing with depression and anxiety. It's almost like you are creating your own future. You are sort of paving your own path because you have a story that's looking for those confirmations, okay? So let's compare two different people. You have the Selena Gomez, mentality, which is that I'll always be depressed, I'll always be anxious. Well, let's say you're having a good month and everything's great. Awesome, okay? You're feeling awesome, you're satisfied, no anxiety, no depression. You have a bad day at the end of the month. Well, what is your story telling you? Oh, see, you live with depression and anxiety. Here you go. Here's your depression and anxiety back to haunt you again. Come on back down to earth. You were floating up there in the clouds, and now you have to be this depressed person again. Right? Because that's the story that's going on in her mind. So she's looking for the confirmation in the future. When she feels bummed out, when she feels a little bit stressed, there's another voice that comes in and says, hey, I told you you're not going to get away from this thing. And so she now retreats back into the lower state of mind that she was before, right? So that's one way to go about it. The other way is you don't buy the big lie. You don't actually buy what anxiety and depression and panic attacks are selling you. They're selling you an identity. They want to latch onto you like slugs. They want to be a part of you, right? And you don't have to let them do that. You don't have to buy that. You don't have to say, okay, I'm a person with, I'm a depressed person. I'm an anxious person. I'm a panic attack driven person. And that's just something that I have to deal with. Instead, you can just accept them as temporary sensations, right? Just like everything else you go through in life, right? When you're hungry, you don't stay hungry forever. You eat something and you're no longer hungry, right? When you're tired, you take a nap or you go to sleep at night and then you wake up and you're not tired. Hopefully, if you got enough rest, right? You're a little bit cranky. You're a little bit moody. Do those things last forever for the rest? No, nothing lasts for the rest. So why is it that being depressed, which can happen to anybody and does happen to everybody, why do we believe that has to be something that stays with us for the rest of our lives always? Now it seems a little irrational, doesn't it? It doesn't seem a little illogical that we have certain emotions that are really negative we don't want, but those are the ones that we want to hold on to and keep tight to us and say, yes, this is part of my identity and these are the things that I'll always keep with me. Why would you want to hold on to those things? If anything, those would be the first things that you accept. Okay, I'm going to feel bummed out for a while. Okay, I'm feeling anxious. Okay, I'm feeling this. And then you accept that they'll be temporary because everything else in my life has come and gone, right? There's always a time and place for everything. And this negative, horrible feeling has a time and place, and then it'll go. maybe there's something I can learn from this experience. Maybe there's something that I can become better at, or I can have a realization about, maybe a lifestyle change that I need to make because of these sensations that I'm feeling. Or maybe this is just a time for me to be really introspective and reflective about my life and my choices and my trajectory in life, right? There's always something you can get out of even a negative, seemingly negative experience. So I just wanted to highlight that because this quote is so common for people that are dealing with these issues. And now, again, obviously with all of this that I'm spewing out here, I'm not a doctor. I have no psychological training. Okay, so none of this should be taken as medical advice. So if you're having issues, if you need to seek medical help, go see a doctor, right? Go get checked out or whatever. Okay, so this is not meant to be a substitute for anything that you should be doing on your own and talking to a doctor about your issues. Okay, so I just want to put that disclaimer out there. But as you can probably tell, this is something that's near and dear to my heart. This is just an issue that I've dealt with, and I want to do anything I possibly can to help people. And I have been basically for the last 3 or 4 months, pretty much ever since I made that first video on my channel, I've been working on sort of another business to help people out with these issues, with specifically panic attacks. I think that's the first that I'm going to be tackling. And I'll maybe let you guys know about that at some point. So if those of you that are dealing with panic attacks in the beginning, you might want to take a part of this thing, because I think I have something that really can work and can really help you sort of get out of that negative spiral that you're in right now. And at some point I do want to do one on depression as well, because I think they are very similar thought patterns and mindsets with depression and anxiety. I don't think they're sort of far apart in terms of how they work. Yes, they might give you different worries or different fears, but essentially the mechanism for your mind kind of going down the spiral drain of negative thoughts and getting stuck kind of on a record of repeat of believing just distortions about yourself and about reality, they're pretty much identical. They're pretty much the same. So I think the method that I've used myself personally and what I think I can teach, it could be, fairly useful for a lot of people. So I will definitely keep you guys updated on the progress of that. It's not ready to go yet. I'm still sort of putting the curriculum together and all that kind of stuff. So I'll definitely let you guys know how it is. And again, of course, I know this has nothing to do with music licensing. So again, this is another one of those videos. I should have said this in the very beginning. But obviously, if you're still watching it at this point, this is something that really does relate to you. And I again, this is kind of the same advice that I gave at the last video I did, which is that if you're going through depression, if you're going through panic attacks or anxiety, just know that it's okay to accept it. You're not alone. Millions of people go through this stuff. You're not a freak. You're not a weirdo, okay? You deserve to be believed and empathized with, okay? You don't have to be just cheered up and people say, hey, just cheer up, or hey, don't worry so much. I know that doesn't help, okay? So even though we're not talking right now one-to-one, just know that I believe you. I know that it sucks. I know that it's just a horrible place to be. But please just believe me that it's temporary. You don't have to believe the lie. You don't have to get stuck in it. You don't have to let these slugs attach to you and become a part of your identity. You can just temporarily accept them and release them, just like every other sensation you go through in life. That's really all I can say right now. So anyways, I hope this was useful and beneficial and helpful for you if this is something that you've been going through.